Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. Pakistanis and Kashmiris around the world are observing Black Day today on the second anniversary of the India's illegal revocation of occupied Kashmir's special status. Protest rallies, seminars and conferences are being held against New Delhi's unlawful action. Addressing a rally in Islamabad, President Arif Alvi said Pakistan will not hold any talks with India until it rescinds its illegal steps of 5th of August 2019. In his message, Prime Minister Imran Khan said India's state-sponsored terrorism is destroying regional stability. The Afghan government says its forces have repelled 7 Taliban attacks on Herat city. A provincial governor said over 100 Taliban were killed in clashes, including a police chief and 2 members of security forces. But a Taliban spokesperson refuted the government claims regarding the casualties of the fighters. Meanwhile, the group claimed to have captured the Kang district in southwestern Nimroz province. Hardline cleric Ibrahim Raisi has been sworn in as the 8th president of Iran. A former judiciary chief, Raisi replaced Hassan Rouhani following his election victory in June. This comes at a time of growing challenges for Iran, whose economy has been crippled by the US-led sanctions. Myanmar's ambassador to the UN has alerted the world body to a reported massacre by the military regime. In a letter, Kyamo Turn told the Secretary General that 40 bodies had been found in northwestern Myanmar in recent weeks, including some showing signs of torture. The general, who seized power in February this year, has denied the allegations. Pakistan has asked the UK government to remove it from a red list following the latest review of coronavirus curves. The latest changes put India, Qatar, the UAE and France on the so-called amber list under the UK's traffic light system for international arrivals. British MPs have also criticised their government's decision of keeping Pakistan on the red list and removing others with high infection rates. In cricket, New Zealand will tour Pakistan for the first time in 18 years to play 3 one-day internationals and 5 T20s. The Pakistan Cricket Board has announced the schedule for the tour starting from September the 11th. And in the Tokyo Olympics, Belgium have won their first hockey title with a dramatic shootout win over Australia in the men's final. Earlier, India took bronze after a thrilling 5-4 victory over Germany. China leads the medal standings with 34 golds, followed by the US and Japan. Those were the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now the news in detail. Pakistanis and Kashmiris around the world are observing Black Day today on the second anniversary of India's illegal revocation of occupied Kashmir's special status.
Protest rallies, seminars and conferences are being held on both sides of the line of control and across the world against New Delhi's unlawful action. Talking to the media at a rally in Islamabad, President Dr. Arif Alvi said Pakistan will not hold any talks with India until it rescinds its illegal steps of the 5th of August 2019.
Pakistan will not rest until Kashmir is liberated. India has adopted the same strategy of changing Kashmir's demography as Israel has been doing in Palestine. By settling outsiders to change the demography, India wants to exploit the situation of Kashmir to form a government there.
In his message, Prime Minister Imran Khan said India's state-sponsored terrorism is destroying regional stability. Khan called on the international community to hold India accountable. Khan reaffirmed Pakistan's commitment to the Kashmir cause until it reaches a just solution in light of the UN Charter. In a statement, Chief of the Army Staff General Qamar Javed Bajwa said peace is not possible until the dispute is solved as per aspiration of Kashmiris. Earlier, a 1-minute silence was observed across the country while traffic was also halted for a minute. Meanwhile, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation has called for the revocation of India's unilateral steps of August 2019. In a statement, the General Secretariat said the steps seek to alter the internationally recognized disputed status of the territory.
An OIC delegation is in Pakistan to show solidarity with Kashmiris as they mark 2 years since India revoked occupied Kashmir's special status and imposed a curfew. In its meeting with Prime Minister Imran Khan, the delegation was briefed on the deteriorating human rights situation in the occupied valley. Khan expressed grave concern on the egregious violations of human rights in occupied Kashmir. Earlier in a statement, the delegation called for the revocation of India's unilateral action of August 2019 in Kashmir. It also urged India to refrain from changing the territory's demography and to respect the rights of Kashmiris. The delegation will visit Azad Jammu and Kashmir and the line of control in the next 2 days. This comes at a time when India is denying any foreign visit to their side of the line of control in order to hide its atrocities. On the second anniversary of India's unilateral and illegal annexation of occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi led a rally in Islamabad to express solidarity with the people of Kashmir. More in this report.
Foreign Secretary Suhail Mahmood, Foreign Office spokesperson Hafiz Chaudhry, Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry, Senator Shibli Faraz and people from all walks of life participated in the rally. The marchers highlighted the atrocities committed by Indian forces in the occupied valley. Speaking to Indus News, Qureshi said India's actions of 5th August 2019 are violative of the Security Council resolutions.
On the 5th of August, India took certain unilateral measures. They were illegal. They were violative of the Security Council resolutions. They are trying to re-engineer the demographic balance over there, which Kashmiris are very disturbed about, and they reject that. They have used all kind of oppression to break their resolve. They have failed. On all counts, they failed.
Protesters called on the international community to hold New Delhi accountable for the gross human rights violations committed in the occupied Himalayan region.
We are here to protest the atrocities that are committed by the Modi government in occupied Kashmir. Every Pakistani child, man and woman stand with the people of Kashmir and extend their support and solidarity to them.
They called on the global community to fulfill their commitment and grant the people of Kashmir the right to self-determination. Manahil Ahmed, Indus News, Islamabad.
Today marks the 730 days of the Kashmiris living in an open prison since the Indian government stripped the occupied valley's autonomous status. More in this report by our correspondent Manahil Ahmed.
On August 5, 2019, the Indian government revoked Article 35A and 370 in occupied Kashmir. The article had allowed the state a certain amount of autonomy, its own constitution, and a separate flag. It could also bar Indians from outside the state from purchasing property or settling there. India not only snatched all these rights 2 years ago, but also imposed a ruthless curfew and a communications blackout. Thousands of Kashmiris have been languishing in Indian jails since then. Kashmiri activist Malik said India is trying to change the demography of the disputed Himalayan region.
We became refugees and all our economic, socio-political rights were transferred to the Indians. So basically, India's agenda is to transform this occupational force into not just an Indian colony, but into a mini India. And to do that, they are at very fast pace, changing the demography. They have, in the past 2 years, they have given almost 40 lakh Indians domicile certificates, which is shocking because in the next year or so, this area would become a majority Indian area, an Indian region. And then if they conduct the plebiscite, then naturally Kashmiris will be marginalized, minimized, and they will be a minority. And our entire struggle of right to self-determination will go in vain.
Speaking to Indus News, Foreign Office spokesperson Zahid Hafiz Chaudhry said Pakistan will never accept Indian illegal actions in Kashmir.
The fourth assumption that India made, and again where it went wrong, was that somehow Pakistan will accept India's actions. Pakistan has refused to. And since 5th August 2019, we have launched a diplomatic offensive. We've approached international media. We have approached the global parliament. We have approached the United Nations. We've approached the United Nations human rights machinery. We've engaged the civil society. And in Pakistan also, we see that the government of Pakistan, all state institutions, all political parties, civil societies, and Pakistanis as a whole, they are all on one page. They are all united on the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, and we believe that only resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute lies in full implementation of the United Nations Security Council resolutions.
India's continuing crimes against the Kashmiri people are a solemn reminder to the international community of its collective responsibility to hold India accountable. Manahil Ahmed, Indus News, Islamabad.
And for more on this, we are joined by Mr. Mukhtar Baba, a renowned journalist from Indian occupied Kashmir. Mukhtar, thank you very much for your time at Indus News. Can you please give us an idea of the lives of the people in occupied Kashmir for the past 2 years?
Thank you for having me here. Let me tell you that the situation there is miserable from 5th August 2019, and it had been 2 years from 2019. The government of India is coming for every day. They are coming with the new orders, and if you see that at the almost 44 million these domiciles have been issued, and the Kashmiris are even there is an existential threat to the Kashmiri as a Kashmiri. Because the very important thing is that the military siege have been from the 5th August 2019. If you see, there is a military siege, a heavy build-up in the streets that we are seeing that what was in the 90s, and the new bunkers have been what it called erected around the cities, around the roads, and the things are turning back to what it called when it was the peak of the what it called armed rebellion. There, the things have turned to that at this point of time.
So, Mukhtar, what is the sentiment inside Indian occupied Kashmir? Or the Kashmiris still hopeful that they will get their UN-recognized right to self-determination?
Yes, it's not basically the people of Kashmir. They are fighting from last 33 years with the military, Indian military forces and Indian military occupation. The very important thing is that I can tell you it's not hopelessness. It is helplessness. They what it called, what I have feel in the general masses. They have helplessness, not hopelessness.
Mukhtar, now have the Kashmiris living in other parts of the world done enough to help the cause? How can they put pressure on the world to act in this regard?
What I believe that the people, the Kashmiri people, the people around the globe, around the world, they have not done enough. They have to put their efforts together. They have to talk. They have to reach to the what is called the relevant quarters, so that they can raise their voices not only in the West but in the other parts of the world as well, and that too in a united voice.
Mr. Mukhtar Baba, thank you very much for talking to Indus News. We really appreciate that. And to talk more about this, we are joined by Ms. Malik, Chairperson of the Pakistan Peace and Culture Organization and wife of Kashmiri leader Yasin Malik. Mishal, thank you for joining us. Do you believe the international community realizes its responsibility towards the Kashmir crisis?
We have a very, very strong case internationally, but maybe the people in charge, the international community, are weak lawyers, or they're afraid of India because it's a big economy or it's a big market. But for how long will they save the interests of India? How long will they not, keep their eyes wide shut? So I think it's in the interest of the region's peace and security, and also the global peace, that this nuclear flashpoint issue must be settled once and for all before, God forbid, we have another second nuclear exchange between India and Pakistan. Because if peaceful settlement, if an action against India is not the solution, then what is? Is it war? Is it a full-scale war? Because that is the only option left. And I'm afraid the world can't afford that.
So, Mishal, how is Kashmir issue affecting regional stability? Is it just Kashmir, or do you see a wider pattern of India's destabilizing actions in the region?
The countries within the region also, right now, how China, which is part of the permanent 5 countries, after 5th of August, China is directly a party to this entire conflict, and India has invited China into this. So it has many parties which are directly involved and affected and have high constraints involved with this matter of this Akhand Bharat narrative, and the neighboring countries also. Bangladesh, Nepal, Tatapani, including that in their map, and then NRC, the Amendment Act, Citizen Amendment Acts, all these things are affecting the internal and regional dynamics along with the Kashmir dispute. So it needs international intervention on the basis of the abrogation and also violating international law.
Mishal Malik, thank you very much for talking to Indus News. We really appreciate your time. And now moving on, in India, a complete shutdown marks the 2nd year since Muslim-majority Kashmir was stripped of its autonomy, while Indian troops patrolled the streets of the Himalayan region to thwart rallies against India's illegal actions of August 5, 2019. More in this report.
On this day in 2019, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government withdrew Article 370 and revoked the valley's statehood. On the occasion, former Chief of Jammu and Kashmir, Mehbooba Mufti, led a protest in Srinagar. Accompanied by several party leaders, Mufti demanded that killings and atrocities in Kashmir be stopped and prisoners be released.
This is a day of mourning for the people of Jammu and Kashmir. We are bereaving today. The era of atrocities, violence and persecution that began in 2019 by the BJP government has angered the people of Jammu and Kashmir. It is sad that the BJP is celebrating this day while Kashmir mourns.
Witnesses said that troops manned checkpoints in parts of Srinagar, which has been a hotbed of separatist activity. Meanwhile, locals say they have been promised several developments, but nothing has changed on the ground.
There is a lot of unemployment here still. We have to do something about it. Economy will improve only when employment is taken care of.
The All Parties Hurriyat Conference has called for a complete blackout at 8 o'clock in the evening. However, some traders told the media that Indian police have forced them to keep their shops open.
Now, Pakistan has rejected Indian External Affairs Minister's claims about good governance and development in occupied Kashmir. In response to media queries, a Foreign Office spokesperson said the Indian claims are unsubstantiated and self-serving. Zahid Hafiz Chaudhry said the world has seen the most unprecedented military siege and systematic curbs on freedom in occupied Kashmir. He said India has taken a series of illegal steps for further disempowerment of the already deprived and Kashmiri people. The spokesperson added that voices from inside India are questioning the BJP government's Hindutva policies. He said Kashmir is an internationally recognized disputed territory and not a part of India. Chaudhry added that New Delhi will have to give Kashmiris their right to self-determination. time for a short break. After the break, we'll be joined in our studios by Advocate Parvez Ahmed, who is Executive Member, All Parties Hurriyat Conference, and Mr. Ravi Srivastava, a political analyst from India. We'll be right back for that. Stay tuned. Welcome back from the break. Pakistanis and Kashmiris around the world are observing Black Day on the second anniversary of India's illegal revocation of occupied Kashmir's special status. And to talk more about this, we are joined in our studio today by Mr. Advocate Parvez Malik, Executive Member, All Parties Hurriyat Conference.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking time out exclusively for Indus News. And we are also joined by Mr. Ravi Srivastava, political analyst, joining us from India. Mr. Srivastava, thank you very much for your time at Indus News. Okay, I'll begin the discussion with Mr. Malik, with you. It's been 2 years. It's the second anniversary of the illegal action by India of revoking the Article 370 that gave the special status to Kashmir. How do you see the things unfolding over there after this much of time that has already lapsed?
Thank you very much. I'm highly thankful to Indus News to give us the opportunity to express what is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir. As you know, today, Kashmiris, wherever they are settled, they are observing Black Day. And when today I'm talking of Indian occupied Kashmir, there was a complete shutdown. And unfortunately, the occupation forces broke the locks of the shops and used excessive force to stop the people from coming out from their homes. So what has changed in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir? If we see that for the last 2 years, headway India has made in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, that is, their main focus was for the demographic change, because they have, as per the Indian statement, they have issued more than 4.5 domicile certificates to the non-residents, and they are now in a position to purchase the land in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And what is a serious concern for us that in near future, if United Nations resolutions will be implemented in occupied Jammu and Kashmir, who will be the person who will cast his vote? Because the total population of the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir is presently 8 million, and when you issue 4.5 million people these domicile certificates, you are going to compromise this right to self-determination of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, and at the same time you are making the United Nations infractuous. So in this situation, it is the responsibility of the international community, especially the United Nations, who has assured the people of Jammu and Kashmir, who has passed dozens of resolutions, that the people of Jammu and Kashmir will be given right to self-determination, and people have been struggling for the last 70 years, number one. Secondly, India had used excessive force for this period, for the last 2 years, because all the laws of the Indian occupied Kashmir have gone to the dustbin, because the Kashmir is being directly ruled by the India and by lieutenant governor who is there, and the people do not get any kind of relief from the courts. The hundreds and thousands of the writ petitions are pending before the courts. And thirdly, India has almost what it did, that the employees of the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, especially in the bureaucracy, they are thrown out, and the people from outside India are being thrusted upon them. So this is a major change what has taken place, and I don't think anything more, any positive has India done.
Okay, Mr.
So
Malik, you have just highlighted very, very important points. I'll go with the one point to Mr. Srivastava. Mr. Srivastava, I remember that time right after the revocation of Article 370 back in 2019. We saw Ghulam Nabi Azad heading towards Indian occupied valley, Kashmir, and over there during his survey and after meeting the people over there, he said the situation over there in the valley is not very normal. In fact, he said there was a terror in the air. Do we see that particular terror just reduced after 2 years of the revocation of the Article 370, or the situation has worsened over there? For example, the points which have been raised by Mr. Malik as well.
I would like to say that there appears to be a calm before the storm as far as the valley is concerned. My question is to the government of India, that what did we achieve? The point is that we were assured on 5th of August 2019 that the peace will be restored in Kashmir. The Kashmiris will be prospering. Industries will go there. A lot of employment opportunities will be created over there, and it will become a real sense the part of the country which they claim it has not been. But I don't see any change in last 2 years. I think the situation is further grim, and the way India has lost security personnel have been martyred. So many things are happening over there. The Kashmiris had a hell of a life in last 2 years. The political leaders were house arrested. Some were tortured as well. And the situation has not changed at all what it was prior to that 68 years or 70 years. So what did we achieve? Now today I heard that they are going to hoist Indian flag for 100 feet height in the Gulmarg. They could have done earlier also. So Kashmir has always been a part of India. So who stopped them? I don't think that's an achievement anyway. No peace has been restored. No employment opportunities have been created. No Kashmiris. The main thing is that those Kashmiri Pandits who were displaced from Srinagar and living in the tents at Delhi or somewhere in Jammu, nobody has gone back there. I mean, that if they claimed, the government claimed that the Kashmiri Pandits will be rehabilitated there, their houses will be reconstructed and all those things. And instead, we saw that so many people have been thrown out of jobs. The thousands of people have been thrown out of jobs. The Kashmir, Srinagar is being run by a remote control from Delhi. I hope you recall there was a meeting with all the stakeholders in Delhi a few days before, in which our Prime Minister claimed that Delhi ki duri khatam aur dil ki duri qareeb aayi hai. All those phrases were used. And
so do you think, Mr. Srivastava, these notions or these so-called slogans, do they carry any practical weight? I mean, the actions speak very contrary to what he just said in these slogans.
Absolutely. This is what I want to explain you, that the situation has not changed a bit. Every day we hear of the skirmishes. Every day here there's some terrorist attacks are there. Some security personnel are killed again. The life is not normal in Kashmir. This is what is my point, that by sending a lieutenant governor from Delhi in Srinagar, what could he do? You must have heard in an interview of Mr. Omar Abdullah a few days before on a reputed channel of India, in which he exposed that the way all those things which were being done by the earlier government are only being continued. What this government has done in 2 years, how many universities, how many big hospitals, how much infrastructure has been created over there. Nothing is happening in Kashmir. They are doing something in Ladakh. They are making some solar panels and power lines and roads and all those things. But Ladakh was always a peaceful state. But instead, where it is required, where 80 lakh people reside in Srinagar and Anandpura and all those places, nothing is happening over there. No kind of development is seen over there.
No kind of development. The point is well taken. Mr. Srivastava, I'll come back to you with this very point. There are certain other points, very crucial points to be discussed. This point, Mr. Malik, this particular revocation was done on the pretext that there would be, as Mr. Srivastava just alluded to, that there would be prosperity, there would be development, there would be jobs creation. But on the contrary, we see, as you already mentioned, that there are hundreds and thousands of employees who have lost their jobs, and they are being replaced by some other people who are not basically Kashmiris. So where is this whole situation heading towards?
No, we have to understand one thing with due regard to Srivastava. We have never demanded for the development, and we have never asked for the jobs. Because when we see the Kashmiris, when they are on the street, they have never raising any slogan for the jobs or for the development. There have been number of packages by the government of India, some 800,000 million packages and other packages, jobs. But Kashmiris have never asked for the jobs. Kashmiris are asking for the right which has been promised to them by the then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. He is the person who went to the United Nations. It is not me. And he, in his different communiques to the government of Pakistan, has agreed that we do not believe in the forced marriages. So, in agreeing with Srivastava, what India has said, that they are going to make the developments and other things, but first of all, you need the peace.
That's not the point that Mr. Srivastava is making. That was the pretext the Indian government came up with to revoke the Article 370.
I want to say that what BJP claimed. I'm just saying what BJP said, that they are going to make the development. But you have to bring the peace in the state. Until and unless there will be peace, there is no fun of the development. Nobody will allow you to make the development.
Mr. Srivastava, this particular point, Mr. Malik has just alluded to the fact that it's not about the jobs that is being demanded by the Kashmiris over there. It's that promise by the UN Security Council resolutions that plebiscite, which would be fair and impartial, that would give them the right to self-determination, to choose their future path, to choose their fate. What do you say about that?
See, first of all, the attempts going on by the government of India at the moment to complete the exercise of the delimitation, and after that conduct a proper poll over there and put up a state government over there which can do all kind of negotiations or on the United Nations resolutions. All those things can be done. The political climate can be soothed, and the whole thing can my basic point is that the peace should be restored in the region. That's the most important thing, because unless peace is there, nothing can else happen. No discussions, no talks, no further movement can take place. So just by operation and putting people inside the houses and making the army taking rounds of the streets, the peace will not be restored. It means somewhere by abrogating the Article 370 and Section 35A, the government of India has erred in making those such decisions. Instead of that, the attempt should have been to restore the peace in the region and talk with all stakeholders so that the things get normalized.
Yes, that's exactly the point that I just want to bring your attention to. When we talk about the speech which was done by Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan in the UN General Assembly, he was categorical about this, that Pakistan wants to go further in resolving. And right at his inauguration as the premier of this country, he extended the hand of friendship towards India and asked the Indian side to come to the negotiating table in order to resolve all outstanding issues. As you have also mentioned, that there should be peace. Peace should prevail. What makes India hesitant to come to the negotiating table in order to discuss this particular burning issue, which happens to be the flashpoint between two nuclear armed states, Pakistan and India?
First of all, I feel that the particular government has got a different agenda. You are finding it is happening across the nation. There is kind of a Islamophobia against the particular people, and J&K is the only state which is which has got Islamic population which is highest. So their agenda is at the moment of kind of an oppression. They don't want to really restore the peace over there. They just want to conquer it, like the kings used to get their territories won back or something like that. This is not a proper approach. The approach should be to have a discussion with the open hearts and make all stakeholders to express their point of view and discuss with them, negotiate with them, and restore peace. This is not happening in the country at the moment. There is a majoritarism, and as a result, there are a lot of the lynchings are taking place, and a lot of unrest is happening. India is at the moment on quite unrest over there. This parliament has not run for last 20 days. You must have seen already, and the things are absolutely bad. And the government's attention is at the moment on a firefighting. They hardly have any time to restore peace in Jammu and Kashmir.
With that very point, you just said that the government over there, India, is not in a position, in fact, they are not ready to come to the negotiating table. Rather, we see rising Islamophobia over there in India as well. I'll take this very point to Mr. Malik. Mr. Malik, when we talk about this very attitude of a certain government, which is already a nuclear-armed state, and it has a neighbor which is also a nuclear-armed state. So we saw in the past, US President Donald Trump also offered mediation. Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan also extended the hand of friendship towards India in order to resolve all outstanding issues. What holds, do you think, India back?
Basically, why India is not coming to the negotiating table, the basic thing is they have seen the writing on the wall in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. They know very well what the people of Jammu and Kashmir wish and what will be their decision. Secondly, the politics of Narendra Modi is based on the hatred. Simply, hate Pakistan, make hate speeches against Pakistan, and satisfy his constituency. And I'm sure that, as Srivastava has rightly said, they are going for the delimitation, and this is not, this delimitation is not on the sincere basis. There is no sincere commitment. It is just to bring a chief minister from Jammu. He should be Hindu, and in the coming elections, Narendra Modi is going to sell this argument. If he wants to negotiate, then no negotiation is possible under the barrel of the gun. I say on the behalf of the All Party Spirit Conference, let them release the political prisoners who have been languishing in the jails. Let them sit with all the three parties. If there are three parties to the dispute, people of Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan and India, let them come tomorrow. We are ready to sit for tripartite dialogue, but not for the triangular dialogue. If India wishes that Kashmiris will sit with me, then they will sit with Pakistan, and in this way he will create a confusion. It is not possible. Let them be a dialogue outside the Indian constitution. Why? Because, well, people of Jammu and Kashmir do not believe. Secondly, as Vastava said, that there be an elected government. Will it make any difference? For the last 50, 70 years, there have been number of elections, couple of elections have been, and there have been the United Nations resolutions that the elections are not the substitute to the United Nations resolutions. So the only way is that is the political will. India is lacking the political will. If there has been the offers from United Nations that people of Jammu and Kashmir, there has been a strict direction from the United Nations Human Rights Council that both India and Pakistan should respect people's right to self-determination. How it will be respected? After, do we think that after settling non-Kashmiris, he is respecting people's right to self-determination? No, not at all. Yes, there should be negotiation. East Pakistan is giving an offer. We are also ready. All party Syrian conference also ready. Let there be a negotiation. We are ready to sit in the negotiation, whatever may be the honorable decision, win-win situation for all. We are going to accept
Mr. Srivastava, these voices keep coming in from the Pakistani side that we are ready to negotiate. And again, there have been calls on the international level after the revocation of 370 particularly. This issue was discussed for the first time after such a long time in the UN Security Council as well, twice, and then the European Parliament and the British Parliament, even in the US Congress, this issue was raised. There was offer of mediation from President Trump. Now, Pakistan also wants to talk. You said there is not a will in the current government that is in India that is led by BJP, and again it is led by that very Hindutva ideology. What do you think could be possible solution so that all the stakeholders, as per the similar agreement, can come to the negotiating table and discuss it for something good?
I would refrain from using the word Pakistan, but I would definitely say that all the stakeholders who are on our soil, who are in Jammu.
But Mr. Srivastava, I'll have to interrupt you. According to similar agreement, Pakistan happens to be the stakeholder. So how can we not take Pakistan as a stakeholder?
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is that all the stakeholders who are the party in the previous agreements or in the United Nations resolutions or the President of the US or the Prime Minister of Pakistan, whosoever is the stakeholder, must come forward and the government of India should talk first restore the peace in the region and talk and see to it that the Kashmir goes on a path of prosperity and
okay, on one side, Pakistan's Prime Minister said we are ready for a free referendum. It is the will and the choice of the people of Kashmir themselves. If they want freedom, we will just submit to their wishes. That's what Pakistan's side says. Why such type of voices don't come from Indian side as well?
Absolutely, there are political parties over there. Our PDP is there, the National Conference is there, the Apna party is there. There are quite a lot of number of political outfits in that particular region who represent the wishes of the Kashmiris, and they all should come forward and they should discuss. But the point is that irrespective of making the number of efforts, the situation is back to square one every time. There were, the Indians expected that in last 2 years, the things will definitely improve. And if the way it was publicized, the way it was shown to the nation, that, this will definitely bring peace in Jammu and Kashmir, that did not happen. So it means that there is a need for a multi-level talks. There is a need for all stakeholders to be brought in. Discussion should happen, and see to it that the peace is restored in the region.
So do you see this curfew and the siege? Let's talk about this negotiation that might be happening or might not be happening, but we should be positive about it, that people, all the stakeholders should come to the negotiating table and talk about this particular problem to be resolved. But do you see in near future this particular siege and the curfew and the communication clampdown and the very much brutal enforcement of the Public Safety Act and the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act being reduced by the Indian government?
This is absolutely uncalled for, which disturbs the civil life. Students going to school, the people going to their jobs, the sick getting their treatment, the restoration of the internet, the people being house arrested, the indefinite curfews imposed over there, all these things must be stopped forthwith. They do not go in a civil life, they do not go in a democratic country hand in hand, and this should be immediately uplifted. All those prisoners, if they are charged, for 2 years, if they are in the jail without any charges or without any conviction, they should be released from the jail. There is no reason to hold them over there. See to it that, yes, normalcy is restored first. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Srivastava, the point well taken. You're of the view that normalcy should be restored immediately. Mr. Malik, I'll come to you with this point. Do you see any sort of move on the part of the Indian government in near future for the uplift of this?
I don't expect anything positive from this government. If there is some international pressure from United Nations or those peace-loving countries, there is a possibility. Nothing is impossible. But for the
Mr. Malik, there has been international pressure.
Yeah, there has been, although India does not give any kind of impression that there is a international pressure. We have seen the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. This was not all of a sudden. There was definitely an international pressure. But one thing is, I agree with Srivastava, you have to make the conducive atmosphere in the valley. And I assure you, if India makes conducive atmosphere in Jammu and Kashmir, it releases political prisoners, revokes these black laws, and whatever they are, the excessive use of force, definitely there will be a change. And Pakistan will also take a lenient view, because it cannot leave Kashmiris at the mercy of the India, because they are party to the dispute. They have to look after their aspiration and wishes. And I think India must, better sense should prevail on India, and they must take some positive steps.
Okay, with this point, we come to end of today's discussion. Mr. Advocate Pervez Malik, Executive Member, All Party Zuriyat Conference, thank you very much for your time at Indus News, particularly coming all the way over here in our studio today. And Mr. Ravi Srivastava, thank you very much for your time, political analyst joining us from India as well. And with that note, we come to the end of today's discussion, and we'll be right back with more stories. For that, stay tuned. Welcome back. Hardline cleric Ibrahim Raisi has been sworn in as the 8th president of Iran. A former judiciary chief, Raisi replaced Hassan Rouhani following his election victory in June. The 60-year-old is close to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and faces U.S. sanctions for alleged human rights abuses. This comes at a time of growing challenges for Iran, whose economy has been crippled by the U.S.-led sanctions. There are also heightened tensions over a deadly drone attack on a tanker near Oman last week. The UK, Israel and the US blame Iran for the attack, but Iran denies the allegation. In cricket, New Zealand will tour Pakistan for the first time in 18 years to play the 3 one-day internationals and 5 T20s. The Pakistan Cricket Board has announced the schedule for the tour starting from September the 11th. The ODI series will begin on the 17th of September at the Rawalpindi Cricket Stadium. It will be followed by a T20 series a week later at the Gaddafi Stadium in Lahore. In the Tokyo Olympics, China, Germany, the US and Belgium are among others to clinch gold medals. China leads the medal standings with 34 golds, followed by the US with 29 and hosts Japan on 22.
On the 13th day of the Games, Belgium won their first Olympic hockey title with a dramatic shootout win over Australia in the men's final. Earlier, India took bronze after a thrilling 5-4 victory over Germany. Meanwhile, Stephen Gardiner won 400-meter gold to secure Bahamas' first medal of the Tokyo 2020 Games. The current world champion crossed the line in 43.85 seconds. In women's football, the USA defeated Australia to win Olympic bronze in 7-goal thriller. China's 14-year-old diver Quan Hongshan wrapped up the gold medal in stunning style after producing 3 perfect 10 dives. Meanwhile, her 15-year-old teammate Chen Yushi takes the silver.
And now for weather updates, we have Naila with us.
On the 13th day of the game.
Thank you. We're going to start off with Abu Dhabi, where the weather is expected to be extremely hot with temperatures rising to 41 degrees Celsius. While in Amsterdam, a thin veil of clouds are rolling across the sky with temperatures at 22 degrees Celsius. If we head to Ankara, the weather is sunny with temperatures at 37 degrees Celsius. Moving down under to Auckland, the temperature is chilly at 16 degrees Celsius with a thin layer of clouds floating in the sky. Now, if you are traveling to Bangkok, there will be rainy weather with temperatures around 32 degrees Celsius. In Beijing, clouds are partially veiling the sun with temperatures at 30 degrees Celsius, while Beirut will be experiencing some sunny weather with temperatures at 33 degrees Celsius. Berliners will be experiencing temperatures at 24 degrees Celsius, with clouds making the weather even more pleasant. Heading to Cairo, the sun is out and it will be hot with temperatures at 42 degrees Celsius. Down under in Canberra, the temperatures are at 13 degrees Celsius and thin clouds are in the sky. In Islamabad, temperatures are at 33 degrees Celsius, accompanied by thunderstorms, while in Jakarta, the temperatures are steady at 32 degrees Celsius with some rain in the forecast. That's all for now. Back to you.
Thank you, Naila, for the weather updates. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.